Sorry about the delay, but if I don't write those down now, they probably won't ever get written down in the form they need to. Betty Gatlin was moved to D48 at the nursing home, and just remember that. That's Susan's mom. Rusty Reynolds, in a car wreck, his wife and another family member there in Memorial Hospital. Remember them in our prayers. Brother Sullivan's family needs to be in our prayers. The funeral will be Thursday at 11:30 in Chattanooga, and then following that will be a full military burial at 12:30 at the National Cemetery there in Chattanooga. And I can cover your prayers myself as I travel back and forth. Sister Vickers, we need to remember her family in our prayers. On the 21st, the funeral will be here at the building. Exact time has not been set yet. Following the funeral, the body will be taken to the cemetery in Savannah, and we'll need pallbearers, I'm sure, for that. And we'll just have a short prayer at the graveside and then the interment. So let's remember them in prayers. Continue to remember Sister Jeanette and the rest of the family in prayers and passing of Brother Ken. Joe Bassett, out of the hospital, taken home. Not doing a whole lot better, she said, but he is home, and I know he's glad for that. Brother Moore, mentioned this morning, he's sick at home. He's had an upper respiratory problem, and he told me he thought he'd be able to get out next week, so let's remember Brother Moore prayers. Good to see Ashley back tonight. She's been out with some back problems, and we want to remember her. Also, we need to remember Lisa Looney. This was Mr. Sullivan's caregiver. Her family, she took care of him for 10 to 12 years. He was like part of the family, either children, husband, and all, and so let's remember them in prayers. Kim Cowart, house surgery in the morning. They have to be there at 6:30. Not sure what time the surgery will start. The Ladies' Day coming up on the 18th. I think we're in need of another crock pot of soup. Somebody can do that for us. And also, if you can't be here, if you can donate something to the fund, that would be great. Help with the expenses for that. There's a food sign-up sheet in the foyer, and if you don't see that, see Sister Angie Cowart, who's taking care of that for us. Sorry to announce, Brother Keith Martin, one of the elders at Hinesville, passed away last night in his sleep, and he was 52 years old. He had a grandson born Thursday or Friday. He'd gone up to his brother's house where his sister-in-law had passed away, and they got up this morning and he had passed away sometime during the night. So let's remember the Martin family in our prayers. Many of you people who go to camp remember Stevie and Davey, and I can't remember the other boy's name right off the top of my head, but they've been to camp with us for years. Known Keith as a good friend and one of the elders for several years. Earl Birch Brown, as we know him as Birch, Brother Larry's brother's been taken to Memorial Hospital. Don't know a room yet, and need to remember him in your prayers. The security class here, January 25th and 26th. Those wanting to be on the security team, there are forms out in the foyer you need to fill out and bring with you to the class on the 25th. On the 26th, Brother Sutton will be here that morning and talk to the entire congregation. So we want all teachers, all children in the auditorium for that period. He's going to talk about some things that we as a congregation need to know. And so we want you to be there for that, be here for that. And the following week, and I apologize for the timing on that, Brother Spencer Grimm will be here to report to us on the work of the Children's Home. That's February the 2nd. And the Children's Home in Panama we've supported for years. Last time we had a report was from Brother Dave Huffman. Dave passed away about 3 years ago, and so they're sending Spencer Broom to tell us about that, and we'd like the classes to be here for that. And teachers, if you would be talking to them about missionaries and how important missionaries are and the work we're doing overseas, so that they know what's going on and help them to actually see somebody who's doing some of the work. I think it's important that we know about our missions, not just know that we give money every month to this or that, something that we do support and give. And I will mention this also, I don't know how the change is coming for the goats, but when you collect change from the youngsters on Sunday morning for goats, and if you can give some loose change to that, that'd be great. The congregation buys a goat a month. Anyway, this is something to help our children see that they're helping also in a mission effort. Well, I decided to preach this sermon for today, but I think it's important that we know heaven's going to be great. I was working on an article today and thinking about this, but think how blessed those who've gone on are tonight. Those who are Christians and gone on, think how blessed they are. I'm saying, and I know many of y'all are. But when we think about it, we want to go ahead. And we think about we're going to miss them. We remember what they said, things they did. That's part of life. We need to remember heaven is going to be great. To think about heaven being great, let's think about this. Heaven is the product of God's love. It's the blessing that He gave. In John 3:16 there, when it says, "For God so loved the world," He loved us enough, loved mankind enough to send Christ so that we could have a home in heaven. And so He gave His only begotten Son, that whoso believes in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. That everlasting life is what we're talking about. You think how great that's going to be if we're prepared. Heaven is going to be great. In Romans 5:8-9, it says, "But God commendeth His love toward us, that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Much more now, being justified by His blood, we should be saved from wrath through Him." Friends, we think about it, He gave His love to us. He commendeth His love to us when we were His enemies. You know, we want to go to this place called heaven, but if we're not prepared, if we're not ready to go, if we're not living like we ought to live, if we're not Christians, we're not going to get to go. And even if we're in that situation, God still loves us, and He wants us either one, to obey the gospel, or number two, to come back to Him, because He wants us to be in that place called heaven. Heaven is going to be great. In 1 Timothy chapter 2, beginning in verse 3, "For this is good, acceptable sight of our God, our Savior, who will have all men be saved and come to a knowledge of the truth." Now, I know we look at that verse a lot, but I love that verse because He will have all men be saved and come to a knowledge of the truth. God loves us. This is a product of His love. We get the opportunity to go to heaven. You know, I've had things come up in my life. I really wanted to go to them, but they were all sold out. I couldn't go. Or I get there and there's so many people that wouldn't let anybody else in. But you know what? Heaven's big enough for everybody. If we're prepared to go, heaven's big enough for everybody. I want to be there. I want to be where there's no sickness or dying and those things. I want to know a place like that, and where we can be in the presence of God throughout eternity. We can praise Him. But friends, that all comes back to His love that He had for us. Heaven's going to be great. It's a product of His love, but not only that, we will get to enter the rest. Get to enter the rest. And I think about rest many times. And, you know, I've told you this before, and I know we've used this illustration, but it's still the same. When we've worked and we've worked and worked at something, and we get to go home, and we get to clean up, and we get to rest for a little while. Have you ever heard anybody say, you know, I'll do that in just a minute, let me rest just a minute? Friends, that's the way life is. Life is tough sometimes. And we've experienced some difficult things, but friends, we'll get to go to that rest that our friends have gone to. And when we think about them, we need to think about they're in the rest already. 2 Thessalonians 1:6-7. "Seeing it as a righteous thing with God to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you," Paul writing to the Christians there, "and to you who are troubled, rest with us, when the Lord Jesus shall be revealed from heaven with His mighty angels." He continues there talking about those who have not obeyed the gospel. But he says, when you are troubled, rest with us. Now that rest is not talking about the heaven that we're talking about tonight, but he's talking about being able to have that peace and know that this is going to happen. Now friends, we can know tonight that those faithful Christians who've gone on, they're in heaven. And we can know that if we're faithful to God, that if we love God and do what we need to be doing as Christians, heaven can be our home too. Heaven is going to be a great place. I like what Jesus said here in Matthew 11 when He said, "Come unto me, all you that labor and heavy laden." That didn't leave Ronnie out of the picture. You know, sometimes I got to play football quite a bit. When it came to basketball, they thought I was too short and too wide to play. So I was usually the last one picked. But you know what? Not going to be that way. He said, "Come to me, all you labor and heavy laden. I'll give you rest." Notice, He's going to give us rest. You think about all the things we face in this life. You think about the sins you faced last week in your life. You think about the tribulation you went through in your life. Whether it was your family, whether it was workers, no matter what it was, you're not going to have to face those things anymore. How many times did you have trouble overcoming temptation last week? How many times were you tempted? Friends, think about a place where there's no temptation anymore. It's a place of rest. Heaven's going to be great. Come unto me, all you that labor and heavy laden, I'll give you rest. That rest is there for us. That's a promise of God. He said, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. You shall find rest unto your souls. He said, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. When I think about going to heaven, and I think about all the struggles and trials we go through here, when I think about the things we're supposed to be doing and things that have to be done, it's all going to be worth it. You know, Paul talked one time about the things he was going through were a lot of affliction for the glory that's in heaven. Friends, heaven's going to be great. Our friends are there already. They're enjoying that rest. Friends, we need to want to go there too. In Hebrews 4, beginning at verse 8, the Hebrew writer said, for if Jesus had given them rest, then would he not afterwards have spoken of another day, talking about those of the past. He said, therefore remaineth therefore a rest to the people of God. For he that entered into his rest, he also hath ceased from his own works, as God did from his. Our friends have gone on. Those labors that they had, those responsibilities they had, they're gone now. They're gone. Heaven's going to be great. Friends, we need to think about heaven, especially in times like this, and realize we want to go to heaven. He said, let us labor, therefore, to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. You see, that gives us another tool, if you will, to face the temptation Satan puts out for us. You know, he wants to trip us up and make us fall and go astray from God. But friends, let us labor, therefore, to enter into that rest, lest we fall from the same example of unbelief. You see, that's really what it amounts to. We show unbelief and we fail to live the way God wants us to live. We fail to have the faith in God and His promises. When we turn our back on God, heaven's going to be great. Let's don't miss that. Let's go and join our friends and our loved ones who are there in that place called heaven. Well, not only that, hidden things are going to be revealed. And I don't know how many times I've been in classes and talking with people say, well, I can't wait to get to heaven because I want to know about this or that. Well, I got a feeling when we get to heaven, we're not going to care about this or that. I think we're going to be so happy, so joyful. We're in the presence of God. We're not going to worry about all those things. You know some of those names in the Old Testament, and I've had some of y'all come, how do you pronounce this? They have maybe some bad scripture. How do you pronounce this? It's not going to matter anymore. And maybe God will change their names to Tom and Joe and things like that. They won't be hard to pronounce anymore. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, but what I'm thinking is we're not going to have that much care about it. But the hidden things are going to be revealed. 2 Peter 3, 8 and 9 says, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is the Lord, 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. People say, how can that be? It's because He's eternal. And when we get up there, we're going to finally understand eternity. Right now, I can't grasp it in my mind. I think I know, and I've heard many illustrations of what eternity is like. I heard an illustration one time. You get the size of the earth, steel ball, size of the earth, and you put an ant right on the equator. And eternity is like that ant, walking and walking and walking till he cuts it right in half. And then he's put right back on the outside again, he starts again. That's a long time. Hard for me to understand that, but I know eternity's there. He said, one day is the Lord 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. But he said, the Lord's not slack concerning His promise. That's why I know heaven's going to be great. Because He's told me about this place. He's told me how it's going to be. He's told me how wonderful it's going to be. The Lord is not slack concerning His promise, as some men got slackness, but His long-suffering. I love that too. Because He's long-suffering over Riley too. Not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Friends, heaven is going to be great. Those things we've wondered about, we're not going to worry about them, I don't think, but those things will be revealed. Our understanding will be such that we don't have to wonder and worry about things anymore. A little 2 Peter 3:10. Just below that, but the day of the Lord shall come as the thief in the night, which the heaven shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, the earth also, and the works therein shall be burned up. I've heard people say, well, what's that going to be like? In fact, there's a doctrine going around the church now saying, well, it's going to be refurbished. Well, I get that. That's the gift that comes from denominationalism. The elements, the earth and all, that's going to be done away with. You see, I believe God destroyed the earth with a flood one time. I said, well, he didn't destroy the whole planet. No, he didn't intend to. He intended on destroying mankind from all that. But this time he says he's going to burn it up. It's not going to be here. And if he hadn't said the elements shall melt with fervent heat, I'd say, well, maybe you got a point. Now, whether that's a matter of fellowship or not, it's being debated. That's being debated too. But I don't hold to that. I think that's if it's not a false doctrine, it's awfully close. Friends, God says the elements and all things will be burned up. But there again, that's going to be revealed. We're not going to be wondering about that anymore. We're going to know for sure. Well, in Matthew 25:46, and these shall go away to everlasting punishment, the righteous in the life eternal. Again, that's a hidden thing that it's hard to understand sometimes. We say, well, it's just a judgment. Yeah, it is. But you think about it, what's that everlasting punishment? How many times have you heard discussion on really what hell is going to be like? Now, I know the Bible describes it. It tells us different things, where the worm dieth not, weeping and gnashing of teeth, the fire that's never quenched, all those things. But I'm wondering is God telling us those things because we can realize what those things are like. I heard of a case one time where an auto carrier turned over, flipped over, and the driver got caught in the truck, and the truck was on fire. And he was begging and begging for somebody to shoot him, take him out of his misery before the fire got to him. But they couldn't do that, of course. He burned up in that fire. I don't know how terrible that would be. But you know, after a while, he quit hurting. He quit hurting physically. But you see, eternity says that pain is going to go on through that long period of eternity. Yeah, I have a little trouble with understanding all there is to know about eternity. But in those days, in that day, when I get to heaven, I'm not going to wonder about that anymore. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 4 says, for we are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, and not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon the mortality, might be swallowed up with life. Now, those of us who are a little older, and some of you young folks, I think we register with this verse a little more. We understand what he's talking about here, this tabernacle that we're in. You know, the aches, the pains we have, the things we have, the physical and spiritual things we have, those things are going to be done away. And that's going to be so good. You know, I think about Brother Sullivan. You know, he had so much trouble walking. He had a hip that needed to be replaced, and they wouldn't do it. He had trouble breathing. You know, now he's not worried about any of that. He's not worried about any of that. Miss Lois, she was having trouble in those last few days. She could hardly breathe. She's not struggling anymore. She's in heaven. Friends, heaven's going to be great. Our friends are there. Let's make sure that we join them. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, beginning verse 50, Paul was writing here and he said, yes, I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Okay? Neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall all, not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. At the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. Now, I've heard 1,000 reasons, 1,000 people, explanations, I get the word right in a minute, of what that means. I'm not sure what it means. But I know the Bible says I'm going to be changed. And this knee that hurts like crazy, my back that hurts, it's not going to hurt anymore. Heaven's going to be a great place, isn't it? You see, this flesh and bone, it's not going to be heaven. It's going to be a spiritual body. I don't understand everything I think I know about that, but I do know this. The Bible says it will be changed. He says, for the corruptible must put on incorruption, the mortal must put on immortality. But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, so much as you see that your work is not in vain in the Lord. Now, I left a little bit of that section out because we didn't have space for it, or time I didn't figure. But when I'm thinking about heaven being great, okay, all those things are promised to me by God, and I know God's not a liar. But then I get down there and he tells me how I'm supposed to work and labor for the Lord. So that tells me to keep working and keep laboring for the Lord, because things are going to be great. Now, I've got a study tomorrow, 12 o'clock. I want y'all to pray for that study. The young lady, she's looking for the truth, and let's pray that she'll open God's Word and she'll know those things. to show her those things and show her what God wants her to do. She's really interested. She knew Brother Keith too. She called me this afternoon. She went to school. She wanted to know what happened to him. And she said, we're having that study now. I'll be there at 12 o'clock. Pray for that study, please. Heaven's going to be great. Not only do we think about that, we need to realize no longer do we have to hope for it's going to be realized. You know, I know last month, especially after that tree went up and those packages went under there was a bunch of young folks who were hoping that they had asked for the right thing and it was under the tree when they woke up. They were hoping it was there. Now I hope all your little hopes were fulfilled. But if it's like when I was a kid, sometimes I hoped for something and I got something else. Well, that's okay. I still enjoy it. Jill, all the things I hope for for heaven. I hope for that peace. I hope for that rest. I hope for that lack of pain and that hope of lack of temptation. All those things are going to be realized in heaven. And you just think of how great heaven's going to be. Titus chapter 1 and verse 2 says, "In hope of eternal life, which God that cannot lie promised before the world began." Notice, eternal life which God promised before the world began. You think about the greatness of God, and you think about all He did here on the earth, creating the earth, creating us, and all the things that have transpired. But not only that, He already had planned heaven and how we reach eternal life. You see, that's a hope that we have. It's going to be realized then. Tonight, we're hoping for heaven. We're hoping for heaven. That's our faith. That's our want, is heaven. But on that day, I'm not going to hope anymore. It's there. It's realized. 1 Peter chapter 1, 3 through 5. "Blessed be the God and Father of the Lord Jesus Christ, which according to His abundant mercy," notice, His abundant mercy hath begotten us again into a lively hope by the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. You see, without Christ, we had no hope. None at all. But God, giving Christ, gave us, through His mercy, He gave us that abundant hope. That lively hope. That hope that shows us and tells us that heaven is real. We've got that hope in Christ. To an inheritance, notice, incorruptible and undefiled, and that fadeth not away, reserved in heaven for you. Heaven hadn't changed. Heaven's still there. You know, from the time the first man passed away, who was faithful to God, till the time the last man passes away, heaven's still going to be there. And it's going to be just as wonderful and just as great. Friends, we got some friends in Guyana. That's true. And we're going to miss them. We are. You know, nursing home today, we had a little lady there, and she was singing along with us on some of the verses. And Miss Brittany there got me tickled one time because she was kind of watching the lady, and the lady was, I thought she was going to get up and dance for a minute. She was really into the singing. And she was clapping, and when them little boys led their song, oh, she clapped for that. And she'd sing along with us on the song she knew. And I was reminded of Brother Sullivan. Because we got through singing, I wanted to holler, hallelujah. Because that's what he knew. But you know what? He can holler hallelujah tonight all he wants and praise God. Our friends are going on. Heaven's going to be great. Notice, to an inheritance incorruptible, undefiled, that fadeth not away. Notice, who are kept by the power of God through faith. And there's where it comes in what we got to do now. We got to keep our faith strong. People are, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Don't worry about what we're going to do. God's blessed us. Let's keep doing what we've been doing. And God's going to bless us. You think we're all going to be here 100 years from now? I doubt it. Some of these little ones might make it, but most of us, I don't look at your elder, you ain't going to make it. But you know what? This congregation will still be here. Still be just as faithful and just as hard working. But that's because every generation's got to keep pushing on, showing faith in God and showing the love that we have for God and accepting the love He had for us and knowing how great this is going to be. Well, let's look at Ephesians or Romans 8, 24, 25. Notice he says we were saved by hope. If we didn't have this hope of heaven and how great it's going to be, then we wouldn't have the faith with God. He said, but hope that is seen is not hope. If we already had it, to be realized. But you see, we haven't seen that. For what a man seeth, why doth he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then do we have patience. Wait for it. Friends, we were waiting for that place called heaven. Now, again, it's sad sometimes. I nearly cried a while ago. It's sad. But you know what? They're in a great place. They're in a great place. Let's go there too. Let's go there. Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 12. The time we were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. Paul said the time ye were without Christ and aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, talking about the Gentiles there, and strangers of the covenants of God, a promise having, notice, no hope without God in the world. Now, see, heaven is going to be great. I'm moving on to the next slide. This is the lesson. But we can be just like the Gentiles. If we're not Christians, we have no hope. That's not a happy thing to say, but it's a true thing, and it has to be understood. If you're not a child of God, you have no hope unless you're young enough that you're still in a safe condition before God. And, you know, I know that because David said he couldn't call the child back to him, but he could go to the child. The child was in a safe condition. But there comes a time when we're responsible for what we're doing and our reactions toward God and in our life, and we realize that, and we got to do something about it. And now, if you're here and you're not a child of God, I want you to know heaven's going to be great. And you need to be obeying the gospel so that heaven can be your home. You need to come to God by faith and repentance, confession, and baptism in Christ for the remission of your sins. God adds you to His church. God does that. And there is why we know God is so good, because He says there that He'll add you to His church, and therefore we can see that God is great because He loves us and He wants us to go to this place. He's provided it for us. He's provided us the way. He's given us His Word. Heaven's going to be great. Don't you want to go? If you do, you need to obey the gospel. Now, we are children of God. We know how great heaven's going to be. We've known that. It may be there are things in our life that are amiss. We need to repent of those things and ask God's forgiveness of those things. And God's willing to forgive us. He wants us to be a part of going to heaven. He wants us to be with our friends and our loved ones who've gone on to heaven. The question is, do we want to go? Now, if we want to go, we've got to obey. Tonight, if you need to obey the gospel, please do so. If you've sinned and there's sin in your life as a Christian and you need to change that, repent of those things and ask God's forgiveness, and we'll pray with you if you need us to. Pray for you. Remember, God loves you. Heaven's going to be great. If you need to respond, come on as we stand.
Who will follow Jesus?